Well, let's move on and bring up the big conversation at 9 p.m. here on the Urban Debate, viewers. And we are going to continue with our campaign for India Revival Mission. As we fight our war against coronavirus, it's also equally important now to put the spotlight on the economy. And we are glad that the government has finally initiated Atmanirbhar Bharat Mission. It's literally what we have been saying, that we need to revive our economy and steps must be taken. So while the finance minister in various tranches makes her announcements about how she is going to help each of the sectors, let us also talk about what else needs to be done. Let's talk tonight about the retail sector and real estate. Let's talk about our malls, our marketplaces, our retail stores where you and I go to shop. Now, part of that depends on whether you and I will go to shop, when will that happen, how many people will actually want to go and shop in the malls or our market areas, or will they prefer other options. The other aspect, of course, is how does the industry survive till then? How do the retail stores, how do the mall owners survive till then, till the time that the business is shut? And all of this needs to culminate into one basic question. When should we open up our stores and our malls? That's the key question I want to ask on the India Revival Mission special edition tonight. Let's say good evening to Rashmi Singh, Group COO of the Phoenix Mills, Mukesh Kumar, CEO of Infinity Mall, and he is also the head of the subcommittee of SOP for Shopping Center Association of India. Pushpa Bector, Executive Director for DLF Shopping Malls, and Mr. Kumar Rajagopalan, CEO of Retailers Association of India. Let me begin with Mr. Mukesh Kumar first. Mr. Mukesh Kumar, what's your own sense? How soon should we open up the malls in our country?
More safe, more controlled, and more regulated. I think we are better equipped to handle the crowd. We'll be able to screen the basic protocols, what it is required as of now. There are 5 basic factors. One is social distancing, then you have hygiene and sanitation, then you have screening of people coming to the mall, and wearing protective wears and contactless servicing. I think the malls are very well equipped to handle all this. We are much more organized, and I think people feel much safer in coming to the mall rather than going to the high street. And it's a well-known fact. It's run by professionals. It has people who are well-trained. We do regular servicing, whether it is maintaining the AC, the temperature, cleaning, services, washroom. We will be able to maintain all these things in a very good manner. So I would say that I'll go a step further, and I would advise the government to open the malls first before opening up the high street.
Okay, let me also ask, Rashmi, if she agrees. Rashmi, if we can open our supermarkets and control them and regulate the crowd in our supermarkets, if we can now start with our railway stations and railway services, and some amount of, preparation is already going on at the airports, do you think it's also time to start exploring the option of opening up malls?
Absolutely, Tanvi. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for inviting us on this forum to share our views. I think it's very important what is the size of this industry. The retail industry contributes over 10% of India's GDP. I mean, that is the size of the retail industry that we are talking about. It is the second largest industry after agriculture. And even in terms of employment, it employs 8% of the total workforce in the country, making it the third largest employer in the country. So, the first question that you asked earlier, how is the industry going to survive in this lockdown? The industry is not going to be able to survive if the shutdown of malls continue. And, the industry has been making requests on several forums to permit the shopping centers to open along with the opening of the lockdown. And like Mukesh rightly mentioned, we have referred to a lot of international norms, because in most of the countries, the malls have started opening now. And we have taken best practices from all the countries. The shopping center industry has made a very detailed SOP for all the shopping centers across the country. And a mall is a very controlled environment. We are very conscious of the fact that coronavirus is a serious disease. At the same time, it is also a fact that while everybody is working on finding a vaccine, on finding a cure, we expect that this may take 6 months, this may take 12 months, this may take a certain period of time before anyone is able to find a cure for it. So we have to understand what is the new normal. We cannot stop consumption from happening in the country, because India is a consumption economy and it cannot survive if consumption comes to an halt. So reopening of malls will bring a big boost to the economy, and we must open the shopping center industry again.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and the fact that you said 10% of our GDP comes from the fact, from the retail sector, from the fact that people go out and shop. Pushpa, is there also a fear that, if you don't open up the malls for too long, not only will the industry suffer, will the mall owners, the real estate owners and the retailers suffer, but also people will probably get used to some other ways. Recent surveys that have been done already show that a very small percentage of people are willing to right now go out and shop in malls. They would rather prefer shopping online or ordering from the next door, kirana store.
Thank you, Tanvi, for inviting us into this debate. And first of all, I'd like to welcome the measures that the Prime Minister has laid out for the country. The lockdown was an important measure. But now I think we as a country are ready to go out there and, as they say, live with the virus with caution. So when we look at it, we've done our own consumer research, and across Delhi NCR, we believe that the consumers are now ready to step out with caution. And it's important that we, look at the caution, and also when you look at the kind of consumption that we will bring about, there's a lot of pent-up demand that has happened, that has accrued, with be it children's wear, be it the essential plus, be it wellness-oriented products, which have not been available even online. So there is a consumer demand for opening of malls in a more graded fashion in order to ensure that such products are available. So when we talked to the government, we have also said that we should look at opening the malls in a graded fashion, ensuring that the consumers get what they want now. Now, answering your question on online, I do believe that there will be a medium-term impact on people getting used to an online purchase. However, India, as you know, is a community-oriented economy, country. Our families work, shop together. We shop in groups and with friends. With that kind of an atmosphere, I do believe that malls are here to stay, and malls have been established for the long run. Malls have been established for the next 30, 40 years. And the kind of tenant mix that we have is a judicious mix of what is going to be relevant for the next 20, 30 years. With that in mind, I do believe that the consumers will come right back, even if there is a medium-term impact of online purchase. However, the writing is on the wall that the consumers want to be stepping out and shopping for products of their choice.
Okay, Mr. Kumar Rajagopalan, good evening to you. What's your own sense? Are we ready to start opening up more activity, more businesses, more stores and shops?
Yeah, hi Tanvi. I think the jury is out. Three of the speakers before me, all of them really big people from the malls industry, have already said that they are ready to open up the malls. That's the one thing. The second part is that retail is a very large employer in this country, and I think we cannot afford to take chances with employment. All of us know that. The Prime Minister himself has said that we'll have to start living along with the virus. We'll also have to start thinking about the various pillars that will support the economy, and one of the pillars is about demand. And demand cannot get established without opening up retail. So on the one hand, there is this 46 million people directly employed by retail, plus there is a whole lot of ecosystem which is attached to retail. Because if retail is not open, how does the rest of the industry, which is from production to supply chain, etc., really survive? Fact is that retail has a multiplier effect. So we will have to open up retail if we want to get this country back on its wheels. So that much is for sure. Retail has also been a very stressed sector. I mean, as much as we all talk about the airlines and we talk about the hospitality sector, I think the real impact of retail is dramatically more because of the sheer number of people employed by retail. Again, that brings in the point for opening up retail. Now, we've also got a little bit of an example of how we all survived all these days. The fact is that there have been what we call as food soldiers on the streets all across the country who have helped us in getting our food. The fact is that all kinds of retail was open. Retail was open in very small nearby kiranas. They were also open in larger stores. They were also open in inside the malls. And there were also people who were doing online services available during this time. So I think we will need to appreciate the fact that retail in this country, and this country does have one retailer for every 120 people. That means that this retail is an important aspect. Now we have to open up, but we also know two things about living along with the virus. The fact is that we have to practice social distancing. We have to practice all the hygiene that is required to ensure that contamination does not happen. Now, both these are quite possible in formal retail and more importantly in malls, because a mall has got a very clear structure. It's got entry, exit, all of that very clearly measured. There are various checks and controls that can get done. It's controlled by individuals. There are three of these real mall owners or mall specialists who are sitting inside this panel. So I think there is a need to try and see how we can make sure that the economy goes back and we are really able to reboot the economy. That's where I'll come in.
Okay, and you know when you started off and you said the jury is out, everybody agrees on that, on the fact that we need to open up right now. Mr. Rajagopalan, I'm sure you and everybody else on the panel will agree. One of those few things that you all are on the same side, because if I had to ask you right now what can make a retailer's life easy, you would tell me it would be the rent cost and the land cost. And if I had to ask the mall owners, they would disagree. Mr. Mukesh Kumar, isn't it? How does the industry between the mall owners and the retailers figure out how to survive until these restrictions are gone?
See, this is a pain that has to be shared by both the parties, whether it is the retailer or the mall owners. We are in the business where we have long leases are there, we have strong relationship. We need to sit together and see how we can work this out, because this is not a one-way traffic. We need to understand that we are going through that phase where it can't be a one-win, second and loser. It has to be a win-win situation. So I think we have been talking to all the retailers. The dialogue is already on. We'll have to see what is the impact and how do we share this. Rent is a cost of retailer. That is the accepted fact. At the same time, the mall also has huge loans, huge debt to service. How do you get that money? So it has to be done in such a manner that there's absolutely no loser in this game at all. It has to be won together. It has to be fought together so that we can sail together. If you don't do that, I think we're going to sink together. It's very important that we work with each of the retailers work with each of the mall owners and see what is the best way forward. If you don't do that, it's going to be a really bad time for both the parties, whether it is the developer or the retailer. There are some categories they're suffering more. They may take a little longer to survive or to go back to normalcy, like F&B players. And we also see that entertainment may take a little more longer because the social distancing now will take a little longer for them to adjust to. So we'll have to see how we can work this together. There are different categories of retailer. There are different leases we have or different tenure we have. But there are various models. We'll have to see how we can handle this together.
Okay. Pushpa, after this conversation, the next one that we are going to have is actually going to focus, on getting viewer feedback and people feedback. Because, for example, in Delhi, the government has asked people to give feedback on what they think should open up and shouldn't open up. And it's interesting that some of the feedback suggests that people understand that the schools and the colleges and theaters and pools need to be shut, but they want, some home delivery options and some marketplaces to open. Now, if that was to happen, how would you all ensure that we still have some amount of social distancing and screening and health and hygiene, getting implemented inside our malls?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Tanvi. In fact, when I heard Mr. Kejriwal, two emotions came in. One is that we have been preparing ourselves very, very well in the past 1.5 months to ensure that we open with the right kind of social distancing. And I can speak for all the developers in Delhi and CR who I've been interacting with almost on a daily basis. We are prepared. Now, what we have done is that as a platform, we have come up with certain norms to maintain social distancing. We're saying that as a self measure, as a self norm, there will be one person for every 75 square feet of mall space, which ensures social distancing automatically. Now, how we can do that is because our footfall is usually on a live data basis. So at any given point in time, let's say we have a mall which is 500,000 square feet of space, we know that we have to only allow X number of people, which is addressing that norm. And we also have been talking to a lot of retailers when we created these norms and interacting with them in terms of their feedback for the norms. They are ready. They have all actually talked to us saying that we are more than prepared to ensure that the social distancing norms are in place. They also are looking at various methods. When you go in now into a mall, maybe shoe trials are not feasible. Maybe you will not have beauty trials feasible for a while. Exchange policies may change. And the trial rooms may have steam rooms, so people will steam the garment before you try it on or steam it after the cloth is tried on. So there are various other measures that will be there to ensure safety, sanitization, and social distancing. And when it comes to, let's say, the food court, initially we will look at reducing the number of seats drastically to encourage takeaways and to discourage too many people crowding in a food court. Same is the case with restaurants. In restaurants, we're actually coming up with norms, which is all about contactless dining, contactless service, and contactless payments. With these sort of measures and preparedness, I'm confident that if and when the government gives us a nod to open the properties, we will do so with a lot of responsibility and to ensure that the virus doesn't spike again. It is our responsibility as a society to ensure that there isn't any spike, and it's each and every one of us who need to really step up in this and ensure that that doesn't happen. So the developers community is more than prepared to make sure that we behave in that responsible manner.
Okay, I understand. Rashmi, would you want to add to this? Especially in cities like Mumbai, where our crowds are huge and footfalls are huge, how will the mall owners ensure that even if we look at the possibility at some point of time that social distancing is maintained?
Yes, I think that's a very interesting question you've asked in reference to the city of Mumbai, where places are in general very crowded, Tanvi. See, the key difference firstly is between the high street and a mall. What happens is in a typical, if I take like a Phoenix Market City mall, which is a typical 1.2 million square feet mall, you will have 300 to 400 stores which are in one controlled environment. So it becomes very easy to enforce SOPs and guidelines on the staff, whether it is the mall staff, the retail staff, on the customers, on the retailers. So you can have a set of SOPs that you can enforce on everyone that is coming into the mall and ensure that they will be very sacrosanct in terms of the way the guidelines are being followed. In comparison to that, when you look at the high street, you will have in a smaller high street, you may have 100 stores. All those 100 stores will have an independent owner. And there will be no protocol or common SOP that will be followed for that particular high street. So in the current environment of the pandemic that we are living in, malls are actually the place that can ensure the social distancing norms and there are only 4-5 basic norms that have to be followed. Everyone has to wear a mask in the mall. when the customers are entering the mall, there has to be a temperature check that has been done. In fact, most of us have already placed orders. Most of the shopping malls have placed orders for everything, whether it is the sanitizers, whether it is the thermal cameras, all other measures that we are adopting in terms of maintaining the SOPs in all our malls. So I think that especially in a city like Bombay, like you rightly mentioned, if you open the organized retail in the form of a shopping center, the other important point, Tanvi, here is that all our brands that are operating in the mall are also all organized retail brands. They are equally conscious that this is a serious virus, and they will also ensure that their customers follow the guidelines. So I think that we are all very ready with this current situation. We also realize that the current pandemic will be there for some time. If we knew that this is going to be there only for the next 15-20 days, then that was a different matter. Can we keep our industry shut for another 12 months? No, we can't, because we are talking about 8% of the overall workforce that the organized retail industry is employing. Can we keep the industry shut? Forget a year. I'm saying you can't keep it shut even for another 1 month, because we are talking about a lot of job losses that will result on account of keeping the industry shut, and that is something that is really serious.
When you say not even for another month, you're saying that the malls need to open within a month, or perhaps some kind of a help from the government would help you sustain in the meantime?
That is another interesting point that you brought up, Tanvi. The industry, and Kumar has been spearheading a lot of those discussions. The industry has been in talks on a lot of parameters in terms of providing interest-free capital to enable payment of salaries and wages for the lockdown period, in terms of extending the loan payment moratorium till 31st of March, in terms of deferment of property tax. So like you're rightly saying that, there's also support that is required for the interim period. If there is going to be a further delay in terms of opening of shopping centers, then there is a lot of financial support also that is required for the industry from the authorities and from the government.
In fact, Mr. Rajagopalan, I wanted to ask you on that as well. So far the announcements have largely focused on the MSMEs, and justifiably so. They really needed, immediate help. And some of the smaller sectors that came yesterday, today the focus is more on the urban poor and the migrants. What is it that the government can do right now to help revive the retail industry? Apart from opening the stores, of course.
Yeah, of course. Very good question, Tanvi. In fact, all of us understand that this is not a kind of condition where it's winner takes all. You also earlier asked about, will the malls and retailers be really negotiating and relooking at how the rentals are. Almost everybody in the entire chain will be looking at this whole thing, and each one of them will have to give away part of what they get to be able to really get out of this problem that all of us are in. For no fault of any of us, right? So the share that the retailers would have to really give away, we all are aware that it's become a zero income industry. The malls are also not able to get their rents currently because obviously there's no money with retailers. Many of the other people who are associated with retail have also got impacted. Yes, the employees come first, and therefore these employees have got paid, but we cannot keep paying indefinitely. We already had a big research done with our members, and the clear understanding was, if the stores were shut for 1 month, many of the retailers would shut down. Almost 20% of the retailers would shut down in 3 months' time. Now it's almost 2 months. If we go to another 3 months, there is a possibility that 25 to 30% of retailers themselves will shut down. Now this means so much of job losses. The only way it can get saved is, one, if the government steps in and says, listen, I'm going to support you. I want the wages to get supported. Banks step in and they say, listen, I want to support you. We will give you a moratorium. We will give you an interest subvention, but we can take these things forward. I think every single, and the suppliers also, currently most of the suppliers, let's not forget, retail industry supports a plethora of MSMEs. Yeah. So even if the MSMEs are given money today, whom do they manufacture for? If the retail is not open, they'll anyway get sucked down into the problem because there is no demand. So we have to get demand back. We have to get support in. And if everybody is willing to share the problem, I think it's much easier for us to get rid of what we are into. If the more delay, with more the problem for all of us, and everybody is going to be a loser. Today, the government is not getting GST. Why? Because there is no business. The fact is that the banks are also finding themselves into a pit because they are saying that we don't know how many of these accounts are going to become NPAs. So we all understand that livelihood has to come back along with life, and all of us have to work together. The minute somebody says that I am greater and therefore I don't need to chip in, it doesn't work. I'm waiting for the government to come out with its policy. Yesterday was all about individuals and MSMEs. Today there's a whole lot of things that's on migrants. I do hope, and I'm keeping fingers crossed, that the finance minister tomorrow announces for supporting the businesses, and if she's supporting businesses, definitely retail should come into the picture because it is a stressed sector.
Yes, I absolutely understand. Let's wait and watch if tomorrow, there's something comes for the industry. But Mr. Rajagopalan, I think more than a SOP here and there, what will help is the government directly focusing on reviving the consumption. That's been a problem even before the pandemic happened. People were not spending money. People were not in the mood to spend money because there is so much of uncertainty with our economy, with our jobs, that nobody wants to spend. Some don't even have the money to spend. This pandemic is only going to make that worse. So, and until and unless we fix that part of the problem, until and unless we put money in the hands of the people, the demand is not going to return, and then none of the other part is going to make sense. Like you rightly said, what are MSMEs going to really manufacture if you're not selling and we are not buying? But I appreciate all of you joining us tonight and really giving in your views as we pick up this campaign and move ahead with it about India Revival Mission, and which means restarting the economy, supporting the businesses, and ensuring that India gets back on its feet as soon as possible. Thank you all of you for joining us. Viewers, simply put, this is what it is. We need to be careful, yes. We perhaps cannot do it in the containment zones and the zones with high number of cases or lots of crowd, yes. But there are parts of our country today which should be given the luxury and the freedom to open up some markets and some malls. If the railway stations can open up and start functioning, if we are looking at metro services to start functioning, if we are allowing a movement of people, then we need to also start looking at the option of opening up our malls and marketplaces. The supermarkets are functioning even if they're in a mall. If they can manage that amount of crowd for a daily grocery shopping, then the rest of it can be looked into as well. We have to keep in mind that to keep the entire cycle going, some amount of money spending and consumption is required too. That's where the economies are built today. Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. Welcome back, viewers. As we were just referring to the fact, the Delhi government has asked people of the national capital to get back to the government with their own suggestions. In fact, since they made this announcement, we're given to understand that they already got about 5 lakh suggestions. Now, if you know, viewers, the national capital of our country is a red zone currently, and all the districts are in the national capital are considered red zones. So far, there have been about roughly 8,000 cases in the national capital. Of these, 2,858 have already recovered, and there have been about 106 deaths. There are 80 containment zones in the national capital in the city of Delhi. Now, the Chief Minister of Delhi, Arvind Kejriwal, a few weeks ago first came out and said that he believes that Delhi is ready to emerge from the lockdown, that barring the containment zones, business activity should be allowed everywhere else, that they can't have all the districts as red zones and shut down. He said, we are ready with our healthcare infrastructure, let's do it. The center we don't know if the center has responded to them in written, but there has been no official public reaction to this. Soon after, the Delhi Chief Minister came out and said, well, let's ask the people of Delhi what they want. What do you want opened, and what do you think should remain shut? And it's very interesting, the view that has been presented by the people. In fact, people are really saying right now, and I want to take you through the suggestions. that there should be more restaurants, and restaurants should be allowed for home deliveries even if dine-ins are not permitted. That parks should be opened up so that people can at least go and exercise a little bit, go for their morning walks. That metro services should resume, of course with social distancing. Similarly, some amount of public transport should resume with social distancing. That maybe the government can look at a kind of an odd even scheme for markets. Schools and colleges should remain shut. That the 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew should be scrapped, and they believe that the salons and the theatres and pools can remain shut right now. But I want to ask, our experts, and I will also get in an AAP representative to talk to us about what should be the way forward for Delhi. Is Delhi ready to open up its malls and marketplaces? Is Delhi ready to open up its public transport? That's the big question. Let's say good evening to Saurabh Bharadwaj, MLA of Greater Kailash and of course Chief Spokesperson for the Aam Aadmi Party, and Dr. Devadasan, public health expert who formerly worked with the WHO and is joining us this evening right now. Saurabh, let's begin with you. Clearly the government is of the view that you are ready to get rid of a lot of the current restrictions.
I think government has not yet decided. The Prime Minister asked the Chief Ministers to give their viewpoint, that what do they think, and we took submissions from people of Delhi, and we are collating those suggestions and giving it to the central government. Obviously, our central government will consult different experts and will also consider the opinion of people of Delhi. And I think whatever they decide, the Chief Minister has categorically said that whatever the central government decides, we will go by whatever recommendations come from the central government from 18th.
But the Chief Minister did come out about 10 days ago, Saurabh, if I'm not mistaken, to say that, well, we are prepared, we've built up our health infrastructure, we've used our lockdown time very well, and not all districts of Delhi need to be red zones. We can leave the containment zones and open up elsewhere. Has that view changed now?
So, the viewpoint today, what Chief Minister said in his press briefing is based on different suggestions which we have got from people, from various market associations, business associations, industrial areas. And I think the viewpoint of people will be raised by the central government. And obviously, they will consult different experts, because like 2 days back, the Prime Minister said that, we now have to open up our economy, we have to start working, and we have to work on the economic side, and we want to make India self-reliant and the Swadeshi thing and all kind of things. So I think the general view in the country is that you have to start economic activities, because I think everybody understands that before this corona, the financial state or the economic state of the country was not good. We had a huge unemployment thing, and we have our manufacturing sectors and automobile sectors going at a negative rate. So after 2 months of lockdown, or let's say 7 weeks of lockdown, the economic situation of different states across the country is such that it is very difficult for people and the governments to sustain. As you can see, so many migrants want to go back home because they are not able to sustain their life in the cities. And so some kind of, trade-off has to be there between the economic activity and the caution of precautions for corona.
Okay, let me also go across to Dr. Devadasan and ask him, Dr. Devadasan, even before this, the conversation that I was having with many industry representatives was, how do we go about restarting more of our business and more of our economic activity? Because no matter how much of a stimulus package the government comes out with, unless actual activity begins on ground, our economy is going to take a big hit. Now, are we ready to do that in our cities? Is there a way that we can find of maintaining social distancing, taking some precautions, but restarting some of our regular activities?
Thank you very much for inviting me in this show. You see, this is what I mean. There is no magic wand that we can say that, okay, now let's do it or we can't do it. Nobody has the answers. And if you look at European countries now, most of them are slowly, in a staged manner, opening up. They don't know what will happen, but how long can you keep this lockdown and how long can you keep your economy under shutdown? Because there are a lot of collateral damages which are happening because of the lockdown. People not only are dying of hunger, etc., but people are dying because of other preventable causes of illnesses. For example, people who are delaying their heart attack, I mean, when they have a heart attack, they are delaying their care-seeking behavior, etc. And so people are dying because of those illnesses also. So we just cannot keep this lockdown indefinitely. I congratulate the Delhi government for taking this kind of a bold step and, most important, asking the people. And I think the people have come up with some very sensible suggestions already. I mean, keep the parks open, maybe start the shops in a phased manner wherever there is. I would start the shops, and most important, start your public transport, because if people have to go to the shops, even the shopkeepers and the workers in those shops, they need the public transport. Keep your social distancing, insist on social distancing right throughout, but I think that's a way to go forward. A little controversial, but in most Western European countries, they have opened up the schools in the beginning itself, saying that the children are much less vulnerable to getting the COVID-19. But in an Indian context where children stay with their grandparents, we may have to rethink that and say maybe not yet. But definitely, I think it's time for us to start opening up slowly starting the shops and the public transport, etc., so that people can go back to a normal life.
Okay, Saurabh, then let me ask you this. Just how prepared are you to, maybe if the center agrees to restart the public transport or open up the parks and some of the malls or restaurants in, whichever way, has the government prepared its plan of how to go about it?
There are a few things, which are a bit bottleneck for us. That most of the people who are getting COVID positive in Delhi, we find that they do not require hospitalization. It's hardly, I think, 10 to 12% people only who are facing breathing problems or who have, some kind of other complications and they need hospitalization. And usually, I think 80 to 85% of people, even if they get COVID positive, they are good with getting themselves quarantined at their own places. And so I'm looking at the rate at which the COVID infections are growing, because they are still growing in India. They are still growing across. We are of a confidence that, if COVID grows at this rate, we have sufficient medical facilities, we have sufficient beds to take care of it. And like, our health expert just now said, for everybody in the world, for the state governments, for countries in Europe, like Europe or any other country, it's more of a evolving situation. Nobody knows, what will happen 2 weeks later when the country opens up. There is a chance that, the situation worsens. And there is a chance that, that things remain normal. So it's a kind of an evolving situation, but as of now, it's a kind of a catch-22 situation. It's a very tricky situation that you have to have a trade-off between two things. Economy, because people can die of hunger, people will die because of joblessness, people will die because they are forced to travel back to their cities, and people are also vulnerable to COVID. So it's an evolving situation. As of now, what we think is that we should be able to handle our situation if we open up. in normal circumstances, unless something exceptionally bad happens, I think we are in a good position, and most of the people are recovering. Even if one of our MLAs was COVID positive 10 days back, and I saw his video, I spoke to him. He said, he just remained at home and he was just drinking, lukewarm water, and he has now come out of the COVID. So this is a fortunate thing that people are not requiring much of hospitalization. But yes, you have to be very careful when you open up your public transport, because the chances of spread, the chances of infection are quite a lot when you are traveling in public transport. So there has to be a lot of education. There has to be a lot of understanding in the people that
Right.
things are not yet good. You have to be very, very careful. While you were in lockdown, at least you had a chance to be careless at your home. But once you open up markets, once you open up offices, you have to be very, very careful.
Yes, but I agree with you. But the fact of the matter also is, Saurabh, that we all need to also understand that the situation is not going to change. The virus is not going anywhere. We are not going to get rid of it, and we have to find a way to live with it and to live around it. To be careful, to be ready when it hits someone, to be ready if the number of cases go up, or else we will always be in a state of lockdown. Until somebody in some corner of the world or in our own country finds a vaccine, which of course will not be for a while at least. But let me go across to some of our viewers who are calling us, and I believe we've got Mr. Arun Jain, who's calling us from Delhi, and if I'm not mistaken, from Mr. Bharadwaj's constituency itself. Mr. Jain, good evening. Go ahead, please. What is your view? Should Delhi lift some of the restrictions?
Yeah, I want the question to be asked to Saurabh Bharadwaj ji. I know he's a very good gentleman, but I have a question for him, that why the fixed electricity charges are not being withdrawn, though the central government has allowed it to be withdrawn. Why there is delay and why no action is being taken? It is my request to him.
Yes, I think Mr. Jain, being from a trader community, would understand that like any other business, government is also in the business of collecting revenue and then spending that money on the welfare. And right now, I think I'll not hide it. The usual collections for a month are around 4,000 crores for Delhi government, and in this last month, we couldn't collect even 400 crores. So, and it is the state for every state government that, the revenue collections are very low. And as a government, we would also like to extend all kind of welfare measures for the people and would like to help them in their electricity bills or into the water bills. But as of today, situation is not very good as far as the coffers of the government are concerned. But yes, this is being debated and this is being considered that government may come up with some relief measures for, electricity, water, and many other things. But right now, the situation of money and revenue is not very good for government to take lot of bold decisions in terms of spending money.
Okay, Saurabh, thank you so much for taking that response. Let me actually just also go back to Dr. Devadasan. Dr. Devadasan, again, we come back to this point, and I think for a lot of people and even the governments, what we are not understanding is that this virus is not going to go away anytime soon. And so we need to start working on possibilities of living our life while we also deal with this. For example, if we've been in a state of a lockdown for 6 weeks now, by now the governments should be ready with some amount of additional health infrastructure. So if tomorrow we open up and the cases go up, we are able to handle it, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, like you rightly said, the coronavirus is not going to go away. And what the WHO and has been recommending right from the beginning has been that lockdowns will only delay the infection in the community, but it will not prevent it totally. So I think the lockdown has helped us, the governments, in setting up the infrastructure, getting the PPEs and masks and everything ready. And now it's a time to slowly ease the lockdown, keeping in mind that, remember, this is not a deadly virus as everybody is talking about. I mean, thinking. Mr. Saurabh had mentioned that only 80 to 85% of patients do not have symptoms. They are asymptomatic or have very mild symptoms. So even if we get the virus, especially those below 60, it is maximum a kind of a cough and a cold, and after a few days it goes away, just like an ordinary cough and cold. So if we can get over the fear of the virus and move on, I think we will have developed herd immunity among our community, and that is the only way to prevent, the virus exploding in our faces. So I think what most of the public health people have been saying is lockdown is not it may be an answer for delaying the spike, but the ultimate aim is, goal is to get herd immunity either through a vaccine or through slow interactions with people and getting the virus and getting recovering from it.
Okay, let me also bring in one more viewer who wants to, be part of this conversation and share his views. Mr. Jagan Mohan is on the phone line, and he's calling us from Srikakulam, I believe, in Andhra Pradesh. Good evening, Mr. Jagan Mohan. Go ahead, please.
Madam, I am stranded in a small town called Palakonda in Srikakulam district, Andhra Pradesh. Hello? Hello?
Yes. Go ahead, please. We can hear you.
Yes, madam. My family, including my old age mother, who is suffering from multiple health issues, and my wife and a small kid of 2 years, they have all been stuck in Hyderabad, my residence. Hello?
Okay, and you're unable to go back to Hyderabad from Srikakulam, is it?
Yes, madam. I'm resident of Hyderabad. I came on work to Visakhapatnam and to my wife's native place here on some work before lockdown, and got stranded here. And still, even after the announcement, still there is no clarity from...
Yes, one can only hope, that the government actually begins more public transport. Some amount of transit and buses have actually started, Mr. Jagan Mohan, and we can only hope that gradually increases, so everybody who's stranded in different places can get back. I am sure in a few days you will also get some relief. We've already got travel going on between various cities. The railways yesterday has decided to increase the number of trains. They are even now taking waiting lists. But even within the cities, I think there is a big part about travel. And even within Delhi, Saurabh, metro has now become a crucial lifeline of transport for people of Delhi. At least for the metro, is the plan ready that when you open, how will it happen? How will you regulate the crowd? How will the social distancing function?
Yes. I think in many suggestions which the government has got regarding the easing out of lockdown, many people have suggested that, the public transport, especially the buses and the metro, should open. Because if you know that metro has a ridership of almost 40 lakh people per day. So you can imagine that almost 1/4 of the city travels through metro. And it's obviously a lifeline, and there are a lot of suggestions, and there are some plans to which the ridership in the metro can be limited so that metro doesn't add up to spreading of infection, and it also makes the city going. And we are just waiting for what the central government decides for Delhi. And if we get a go-ahead for running our public transport at a limited capacity, then we have certain plans for which, we can have metro and the buses run, and we can also, ensure some kind of a social distancing. Obviously, it will require a lot of coordination and a lot of discipline from the people, but we have some plans through which it can be done.
Okay, all right. I understand what you're saying. Let's wait and watch what your final proposal will be to the center and what the center government decides. Few days to go before we find out what is going to be the format and the version of lockdown 4.0. Thank you so much, Saurav Bharadwaj and Dr. Devadasan, for joining us, and for viewers who are calling us from across cities, not just the national capital. I'm sorry we couldn't take more phone calls, but we completely ran out of time. Viewers, I think the governments also need to start working on a plan for life with coronavirus, because the virus isn't going anywhere. So gradually we need to look at ways of how some people who do need to get out, some amount of business activity that must take place, some amount of office work that must happen. How do we deal with it? India is a very, very unique country with a huge amount of population. So everything that we do has to be very different from the way the rest of the world is actually handling the same situation. If we decide to open up, it means hundreds and thousands of people will get out on the streets and into our public transport and in our malls and in our offices. So yes, it's a big challenge, but we can't always and permanently stay in a state of lockdown. So a proper plan is the only way to go about it. Thank you so much for joining us on this edition of the Urban Debate.